segment 3, Cedric, and I think this might fit. I haven't done a Say What segment in a while, but I think this fits for Say What. We're finding out earlier this week that University of Houston, who played Oklahoma, well known down in your neck of the woods in Austin, sort of one of those, programs that's always on the cusp of being, pushing around to Power 5, being in the rankings, those sorts of things. Off to a rough start this year. 1-3 are the Cougars. And now news that D'Eriq King, their quarterback, and at least one other guy, a receiver at this point, they're saying, we're going to redshirt the rest of the year. Now, D'Eriq King has said he's not planning to leave Houston. I don't know if that's going to hold up over the course of the year or not, but they're saying, we want to stay, we're not having a good year. Cedric, we knew that this 4-game redshirt rule, which was started last year, we've seen coaches and teams kind of working through how do we use that. We saw some fallout last year with some players doing what these Houston players are doing, but they transferred. They basically said, I'm not getting the playing time I wanted or whatever. I'm going to transfer. I'm done after 4 games. That was a little bit of an unintended consequence when it comes to sort of a free agency feeling. But this is something else entirely. Does this feel like the start of maybe, I don't know. What if a coach said, we're gonna redshirt all our best guys. I've got 6 guys that are really good, but we're not a very good team this year. We're gonna redshirt them and try to be better next year. Is this the start of something that could be really a change in college football moving forward?
Yeah, and it's not a good one. I know when the NCAA came up with this rule, it was about freshmen. Let's see if these freshmen are ready to play. And if freshmen play 4 games and it seems apparent that they're not ready to go, that they're not fully developed, then we could sit them down. But guess what happens, Jen? We got a loophole. And now you got seniors figuring out that I can take the rest of the year off and keep my options open. And D'Eriq King, if you've seen him play, Jen, and I know you have because they played the Sooners, he is electric. He is already a very good quarterback. Yeah. He just happens to be on a crappy team. And so Dana Holgorsen will have me believe that D'Eriq King is going to sit out the rest of the year. And then come the spring of 2020, we're not going to see his name in the portal. D'Eriq King is going to the portal. Lincoln Riley already said after they beat Houston, he's a great quarterback. He's one of the best quarterbacks we've ever played against. And Lincoln Riley is, guess what, Jen? The quarterback whisperer. Yes, he is. The quarterback whisperer, who is the king of transfer quarterbacks winning Heisman trophies. Jalen Hurts, the latest off the assembly line. And guess what after this year? He gone, and D'Eriq King will be on Lincoln Riley's wish list. Why wouldn't he want to go to OU? A great program and a great conference, and a guy that sends quarterbacks to the NFL. He just got a 5'10" quarterback drafted number 1 overall. So I like Dana Holgorsen, but Dana, let's be real. You really think D'Eriq King is going to be a Houston Cougar next season? Not. I don't care what he says now. Things change, situations change. And college football has a real problem on its hands.
Yeah, and I think what you said when you first started, Cedric, I think is the thing that's going to have to be talked about by decision makers in college football, in the NCAA, whatever level you want to say. This is a rule that intended to allow coaches, players even, to see when they're younger, do they fit? Are they ready? If it's maybe playing a couple games early, or if a guy develops, if they're planning to redshirt a guy and he develops better than they think, and at the end of the year, if he's then able to play, maybe he plays towards the end of the year and finds a spot where he can contribute. This was a rule expected to help incoming freshmen or transfers, I suppose, maybe junior college guys you could loop in there. But I don't think that the intent, and we saw this last year at Oklahoma State, Jalen McCleskey, actually the hero in that Tulane win over Houston, maybe one of the games that pushed D'Eriq King to say, I'm gonna sit out, I'm gonna redshirt. he decided after 4 games at Oklahoma State last year that he was going to redshirt and then transfer. So, he was one of those early guys to see the loophole, to say, I'm gonna sit out, I'm gonna look elsewhere. So I don't know what happens to De'Aaron King. I'm like you, Cedric. I'm skeptical that he is a Houston Cougar this time next year. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I mean, isn't this somewhat, I don't know if easy is the right word, but isn't there a fix in this, that the legislation or this rule could be changed to apply only to players in their first year with a program? I mean, couldn't that be written in tomorrow and change what we're potentially seeing happening in college football?
Absolutely, and they're going to do that, Jen. This was not intended for seniors to skirt the transfer rules and use a red shirt to weigh their options. This is for young players. So it's legal right now, but I'd be very surprised if it didn't change in the off season, because you got really good football players who are going to be taking advantage of this rule. And what it does also, Jen, is it messes up the competitive balance in college football. We knew the Houston Cougars aren't very good this year. We know they're not going to be good with De'Aaron King on the sidelines now. That's a disservice not only to his teammates in the locker room, but also to the people that are paying good money to watch him play. So De'Aaron King, more power to him. He's not breaking the rules, and neither are these other guys that are going to be taking advantage. But I think this might be a one-off. I don't know that this will be happening this time next year. They're going to change that rule.
I think they have to. I mean, I'm with you. I think it does throw things, in that you're not expecting to be different sort of out of the blue. Teammates, as you say, opponents, just a variety of things that weren't supposed to be happening because of this are happening. We were talking after the news broke about De'Aaron King in Houston and what this might all mean. Back in the early 80s, when Kansas State was very bad, this was pre-Bill Snyder, and this didn't involve Bill Snyder. This was before he arrived in Manhattan and really turned that program around. They had basically a year or two where they said, we're going to redshirt a bunch of guys. We're going to redshirt, and then we're going to redshirt a bunch of older guys in an attempt to develop the program, get better, get the footing, all that sort of thing. It was unexpected, largely unprecedented at that point that a program would try that. Now, people that remember how bad K-State was, I think you could say that, they were looking for any way to try to get in a place where they weren't, losing every game. I mean, that was a team that didn't win at all for stretches during that time in their program's history. So the idea of a coach or a group of players maybe saying, we're going to set out, that's not without, it's happened at some times before, but not like this. Not players saying, taking control. And I think as much as anything, Cedric, player control in the NCAA, that's not been something we've seen a lot of. The NCAA does not give players and student athletes much control over their situation, over what's going on. So the fact that players are seeing this as a way to take control, again, I mean, I think what you said about why this will change, why they'll look at it and add some stipulations that won't allow this to happen, as much as anything, the NCAA is not about letting players and student athletes take control. I think that as much as anything is going to get this changed.
I agree, and it's kind of fun to see the players finally get something, since they're not getting money. They're not getting money and putting in 50, 60 hours a week on sports. So good for the players, looking out for the players. It's about time someone did.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, a lot more to come on that situation. We'll talk about football. Who knows? Maybe there'll be another 19-inning game to talk about next week. You just never know. So come on back to the Writer's Block. We'll see you then.